Hello and welcome back to my multi-part Ouya review. In this video, I'm talking about the Game Boy Advance emulator, commonly known as the GBA.emu. Game Boy Advance is one of the best things about the Ouya. The Game Boy Advance emulator is just absolutely flawless. This is an amazing emulator. Now, there have been other Game Boy Advance emulators for things such as the original Xbox and PSP, but there's always a few games with those emulators that don't run exactly perfect. Either the games will have slowdown, the music won't be right, some games won't work, etc, etc. Here, everything runs perfect, runs full speed, no music or audio problems, and just everything works just like they should, except instead of using the tiny Game Boy Advance, you're using a giant HD TV. So let's boot this up and show you some gameplay. So this is, of course, Game Boy Advance EMU 1.5.12, which is the current version for most of the emulators for the Ouya. Now, over time, any issues that this emulator has will be ironed out, so they'll be even better, but I'm telling you, even as of the recording of this video, this is definitely one of the Ouya's highlights. Now, I'm going to boot up some sample games here. How about Advance Wars? Now, one of the first things that you can do is you can actually resume where you left off, which is really cool. Save states. Awesome. Advance Wars is a real-time strategy game, or is a turn-based strategy game, I should say, for the Game Boy Advance, and one of its best titles. If you've never played this game, oh man, you're missing out. I'm definitely going to have to do a showcase video for this game someday, because I love it. I knew you were gonna do that. Little anime dudes attack other little anime dudes. This was the first game that the Famicom Wars series came to North America. Previously, the games were exclusively in Japan, starting off in 1988 on the Famicom with Famicom Wars. The popularity of this game allowed Nintendo to agree to, to release sequel after sequel in the West, and we've got every single Advance Wars / Famicom Wars game since. This is just a really awesome game, and to be able to play this so perfectly on an HD TV is like a dream come true. Alright, enough of that. Let's move on. Next, I'm going to boot up Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, released in 2003 by Konami. This was the third attempt to bring Castlevania to the Game Boy Advance, after 2001's Castlevania Circle of the Moon and 2002's Harmony of Dissidence. Aria of Sorrow is essentially a Symphony of the Night clone. And if you've ever played Symphony of the Night, you know that is definitely not a bad thing. This takes advantage of the Game Boy Advance hardware really well, and showcases that Konami, when they were making 2D Castlevania games, really were at the top of their craft. This is a phenomenal experience that's every bit as playable today as the day it was released. So I'm going to actually boot a save state here, and show you some gameplay. So similar to Symphony of the Night, you walk around from place to place, beat up enemies. Enemies sometimes drop items. You gain experience from attacking the enemies. You can use sub-weapons, which in this case are enemy souls, that allow you to basically copy enemies like Mega Man. So, no wonder I love this game. Now, of course, when you're playing this game on Ouya, you can use any controller you want, including, the stock Ouya controller, any Bluetooth controller, including the PlayStation 3, or Wiimote. Or you can simply hook up any USB controller and use that instead. You could use the Xbox 360 controller. If you have an adapter, you can use the original Xbox controller. You could plug in, you know, a USB adapter for something like the Super Nintendo controller and use the Super Nintendo controller to play this. And you can configure the mappings to be whatever you want. So there's no, you know, if you don't like the mapping of the game, you can simply change it at any time. There's also other things that you can do, such as, you know, change the aspect ratio to make it 4:3 or 1:1 with the original Game Boy Advance. Or you can have it full screen like I have it here. Let's see, what else is there to say? The emulator supports save states, you know, fast forward modes where you can, you know, essentially make the game run in super fast mode, like I'm doing right here. You can save state, you can take screenshots, you know, you can do all the things that you typically would want to do with a great emulator. Alright, enough of that. Let's move on to a different game. How about the amazing 2001 RPG for the Game Boy Advance, Golden Sun? Now, I'm telling you guys, on an HD TV, this looks nothing short of spectacular. This is an amazing game, and to play this on an HD TV is just, oh man, I love it. Save states. I could play this game over and over. Such a phenomenal experience. Everything about it, from the music to the graphics to, you know, the gameplay, perfect. Alright, after that, let's move on. Show you one of the more 3D games. Here's Asterix and Obelix XXL, released exclusively in Europe. This is an extremely impressive port of Asterix and Obelix XXL, which was also exclusive to Europe for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox, I believe. Maybe it also came out for PC. This is essentially a 3D platformer for the Game Boy Advance. So how does that work, right? Because the Game Boy Advance can't do 3D, or can it? Well, actually, it can't. All this is done is this is just really advanced sprite trickery, where everything is 2D sprites, but they're just, you know, shown in with so much animation that it looks 3D. A definite showstopper that for Game Boy Advance. This game unfortunately never came out in North America. So if you live in North America, you have to import a copy, like I did way back in the day. But as you can see, it runs perfectly on Ouya. Alright, let's move on. Let's show you another 3D game, Duke Nukem Advance. Now again, first-person shooter on Game Boy Advance. This game plays and runs perfectly.
Holy cow.
Alright, moving on. One more game. Here's one that you can't find by retail. This is Mother 3, the sequel to Earthbound that was released in 2006 and then fan translated because Nintendo were jackasses and decided not to ever release this game. For Mother fans, this is one of the best games of all time, and the fan translation is definitely worth playing. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions about the Ouya Game Boy Advance emulator, feel free to drop in the comment section down below, and I'll see you next time.